Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Communities Live here on Sheffield Live 93.2 FM. And we have director Masha Egivea. Good afternoon.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good.
Are you?
So, give us a bit of background. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a screenwriter director. I am based in London, and I recently finished my second short film, Saint Vassily, which premiered at a wonderful festival, Holy Shorts, in Los Angeles in August. And I'm very happy to be here and to talk about it.
And I've got to ask about your influences. I mean, who influenced you to become a director? Also, if there was anybody that you could work with in the near future, who would it be and why?
Wow, that's a pretty difficult question in terms of who I would want to work in the future. But in terms of influences, I would definitely say there is a Polish director, Paweł Pawlikowski, of whom I'm a big, big fan. He's probably most known for Ida and for Cold War. I believe Ida won the Academy Award for Best Picture. And I think that he really shows an interesting insight into how to tackle historical events and how to tackle historical trauma in a way where he both immerses his viewer into the life of the characters and you really feel for them and you really want to know what's going to happen with them. But at the same time, there's this beautiful sort of, I want to say aestheticized, but there's a formal approach to how he makes films, how he crops his images, how his cinematography works. And I think that this really inspired me to try and tackle how to combine that formal approach to empathy towards your characters. And that's what I'm really striving to do in my films.
Right. And I've got to ask you, I mean, what was the first film that you saw that influenced you to say, well, I want to become a director? What was the first film you ever saw?
Wow, that's a good question. I think that somewhere deep inside, I knew that I wanted to do film for a long time. I come from painterly background. I did painting for a long time, and then I wanted to do more narrative work. But if I have to pinpoint, maybe I was 16 years old and I watched Eyes Wide Shut, and I think that
Right.
it really did something to me and just completely like moved me and made me realize what films can do and how sometimes they can make you feel like you were just in a dream for 2 hours and yet
Mm.
you actually saw it all. And yeah, I think Eyes Wide Shut would be a very important sort of mark. That if I had to pick one film, especially at such an early age, I think that 16 years old, Eyes Wide Shut is a pretty funny age to watch it at. Yeah.
And I've got to say, it's a classic film as well. I mean,
Yeah.
Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, one of the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, I think the idea of showing dreamlike world and the real world that seems dreamy, how moving images can create that dreamlike quality, that is something really attracted me. And I was like, wow, I really want to make people dream, but in real life.
Sure. And we've got to talk a little bit about your film now, your short film called it's called Saint Vassily. And I mean, tell without giving too much away, tell us a
Mhm.
bit about the plot.
So Saint Vasily is set in the USSR in 1982 in a theological academy, and it follows a young man who's a student at the theological academy, and he's about to become a Russian Orthodox priest. And when suddenly his roommate goes missing, he is approached by a Secret Service agent. And the film is really about what happens next. I hope I
Right.
didn't spoil it too much. I think this is the beginning of the film, and then what happens is much more sort of
No, I
creepy.
was going to say interesting, very interesting. I mean, and I don't want to, like you say, you don't want to spoil the film too much for your audience. So,
Yeah.
and I've got to ask, I mean, did the film take to put together? Was it a long process, or did it come together quite quickly?
It was a pretty long process in terms of development. I'd say development took the longest. I'm adamant that writers, directors should write first and foremost and understand what their script is and work on scripts for a very long time. So this is what I did really. It was like probably a year and a half of just writing 13-page script, writing, and then the actual pre-production and production were much faster, and we worked with an incredible team of producers who were really on it. So the pre-production was like 3 months, and then we shot it, and then everything was like really snowballed, and the people who joined the project really put the project on a different level. We have an EP, Byron McNally, who is BAFTA nominated and Crystal Bear winning executive producer. We have our cinematographer, Arnaud Potier, who's an incredible cinematographer with probably like 30 years of experience under his belt, who shot the latest Harmony Korean film. And we have our editor, Halle Lefebvre, who is the lifelong collaborator of Joanna Hogg, and she edited The Souvenir and The Eternal Daughter and The Souvenir Part 2. So it was just an absolute joy to work with people. And I think that after we nailed the script and I realized that this is the exact story that I want to tell, after that, the kind of passion that I carried with this project, like it allowed for the film to really, for the project to snowball and sort of move at a much faster pace. So yeah, in total, I'd say it's probably about 2 year process for a 13-minute film. So I'd say to anyone, please be patient. Good things come to those who wait. Yeah.
And I've got to ask you, I mean, as a short film director, I mean, what do you feel is the sweet spot for a short film? I mean, how long do you think it should be?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it should definitely be around 10-ish. I mean, it also depends on the kind of stories you want to tell. I've seen films that are under 5 minutes and they're absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I think like the medium is the messages here is most appropriate thing to say. If you're trying to say a particular thing that's punchy, that's fast, that's maybe parable-like, I think under 5 minutes would work amazingly. But I guess I'm the kind of filmmaker who struggles to say anything in 5 minutes, as you can tell from my long answers. So I would say for someone who is that kind of filmmaker who needs to convey a story, has the beginning, middle, end, who has a dramatic arc and all of that, then I probably like 10 minutes, but never ever over 15. I think that's a very important thing, for both pragmatic reasons of festival programming, but also for dramatic reasons. You want to keep people on in their seats, that we want to keep them in tension. So I'd say like 10, 11 is a good number.
And I mean, after the short film, I mean, have you got any upcoming projects that you're currently working on, or is it all secretive at the moment?
It's a little bit secretive, so I'm not going to give too much away, but I'd say that as any other screenwriter and director would know, you never work on one project at a time. You have to juggle 50 projects at the same time. So I am co-writing a short, which is an erotic drama. I'm co-writing a feature, and I'm also in a very, very early days of development for two other features, one of which is a historical drama as well. So I'd say that Saint Vassily is definitely a great was definitely a great way for me to test how, like, what kind of visual language I want to use, that now I'm gonna employ or change for that historical drama that I'm writing right now.
And I've got to ask as well, I mean, if there was a passion project that you would love to work on, whether it be a single film or a franchise, what kind of film would you like to make?
Well, I'm actually writing one right now, but I know it's not going to be made anytime soon. And by soon, I mean like not even probably 5 years. It's a historical drama that is set in labor camps in the USSR. I am from Russian and Armenian descent. I grew up in Moscow. And so watching this country sort of descend into a complete barbaric totalitarian state is heartbreaking for me. And I think that it's important that there is not a single film that is sort of a known established work of art that talks about the labor camps. And I would love to change that. And it's a very difficult subject, obviously. And I think that when you tackle subjects like that, obviously there's the ethics of filmmaking that are
Yeah.
at play, I believe. So this is why I started this project right now, because I feel like I know it's going to take such a long time that I need my time. I need to read on the subject more. I need to know more. I need to read the testimonies, but I also need to think about how I want to talk about that subject.
Mm.
That is so important to me and to millions of other people whose families are descendants of people who were oppressed by the Soviet state. So yeah, that is my passion project essentially. Yeah.
Well, I hope you do get to make it one day. I really do, because I would love
Thank you
to
so
see
much.
it.
Thank
And
you.
I've got to say, I've got to ask as well. I mean, for our audience who is wanting to break into this kind of industry, what advice would you give, and also how difficult is it?
I'd say patience is number one. It's easy to say, but I'm a very impatient person, and all of the people who I work with, they often tell me have some patience. It's you need to keep working on that script. That script is not there yet. Um, it's fine that this I don't know, producer said no to you. You can wait, come back with a better script, and they're gonna say yes to you. So I think that you can be very original, you can be very talented, you can be very hardworking, but the ones who stay in the game for long are the ones who are going to win in the end of the day. That's what I really believe in. Um, but also, don't be afraid to be really original and to talk about things people don't want to talk about or be really weird and sort of be, yeah, I think that we're living in an era of a slight lack of originality and imagination in the not an era, but let's say like a culture, like what's happening in the film right now. I think that it's a bit sad that there's like lack of originality. Like so many films are being remade, so many remakes, so many reboots, etc. So yeah, don't be afraid to be original. Originality is very important. Go ahead and write a very strange film. That's my advice.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Marsha. And so the film called is called Saint Vassily, and it's currently in festivals right now. So how can people get to watch the film? I mean, will it eventually be on YouTube? Will it be on digital platforms, DVD?
So hopefully it's going to be on digital platforms. But as you said, since we are in a festival run right now, please follow us on Instagram at Saint Vassily Film, and you will find out the updates about further screenings. Because we will very soon screen both in the UK and in continental Europe. So yeah, just subscribe and you'll find out.
And do you have like social media where people can follow you on like X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram?
I'm more of an Instagram person, at Masha underscore EGV. So that's me. Please follow.
And my final question for you, Marshall, because I'd like to give a final word to you, is what would you like to say to our audience who is listening right now?
I'd like to say, do support filmmakers who make non-commercial independent films. Watch shorts, watch independent films. It's both to support them, but it's also to find out about very different perspectives, stories that you would never have found out about otherwise. I'm a big viewer of short films and of independent films, and I'd say that this is one of the most inspiring thing and a window into other people's experiences and lives. So yeah, go ahead and be inspired.
Marsha, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.